and welcome to the Green Team of the Legendarium, the weird little spin-off podcast of the Legendarium where patrons get together to discuss the books and topics the main crew hasn't gotten around to yet. I'm Little Red Book, and tonight I have with me the holder of our Discord bridge, Kyptan,
Hello.
and the creature in the Discord's case, Spook.
Hi.
If only he were behind glass.
I'm behind, my camera lens.
That is an acceptable distance from me.
So tonight we will be discussing the two short stories that take place in the world of the Old Kingdom by Garth Nix, The Creature in the Case and To Hold a Bridge. We'll be starting with To Hold a Bridge for 3 reasons. It has no spoilers for the main series. It is a nice way to dip your toes into the Old Kingdom through the eyes of a normal person, and you can find out whether or not you would like to commit to the world without committing to hundreds of pages. Gentlemen, what did you think of this story?
Now, I don't know if this is a hot take in general for fans of the Old Kingdom. I liked this so much more than the entire trilogy. Both of these, but especially this one, I just really loved reading. I sat down, I read it in one sitting instead of going to sleep last night. I wish it was longer. I wish it was an entire novel, but I loved it. It was a lot of fun. We got to see a lot of my complaints for the original trilogy aren't here. We get to sit in one location. We get to just live there, and we know what's going on. It was great. Loved it.
It was a bit like a Cliff Notes version of Part 1 of Lyriel. Or really just the first half of Part 1 of Lyriel. Or maybe the middle section, the part where it really gets good.
Sure. Yeah.
So not the part where there's like suicidal ideation.
No, but yes to the part where there's familial abuse and neglect.
Yeah.
That seems to be a theme. It makes me wonder.
He likes writing about orphans. He really does. This is not the only series where that happens.
There's a lot of orphans for sure. And a lot of
At one point he writes about an orphanage.
Oh, Shade's children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And isn't the Keys of the Kingdom also the main character an orphan?
I don't remember, actually.
It is a tried and tested protagonist trope.
It sure is, especially in fantasy and sci-fi.
So I would say, comparing to the whole orphan theme, I compared this a lot to Ranger's Apprentice as well. Like, I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this reads like Ranger's Apprentice, which is added to my enjoyment even more.
I have only read the first book in that series.
It's great.
Yeah, I read it to see if I wanted to recommend it to my kids, which I did, and they promptly ignored me, which they always do when I recommend things to them. I, in general, love both of these stories, but I agree with Spook in the sense that, not to his extreme, I don't like it so much better than the main series. I do like it better than the rest of the Old Kingdom stories outside the main series.
I think it's very weird what he spends his time on in this story. Like, the specifics of the regiment are really a bunch of time spent on them. Traveling, nothing.
We don't need to know about what they did while traveling. He could just say he trained.
They were traveling.
Yeah.
He explained what they were doing by explaining the regiment.
It would have been a 10-second montage.
I do believe that he served in the Air Force. So I think that that's where a lot of that regiment explaining goes.
He loves a good scene of someone managing an inventory, handing out items to a new recruit. He loves that. And you know what? I do too. But I
It's a
think it
lot of
was a
fun.
little bit long for a short story or novella, as this is titling itself.
Well, the nice thing that he does is he deals with what Mordecai. He
Mm,
More.
deals with what his internal what is going on with him personally. Like, this is the first new stuff he's ever had, and this is
Yep.
and it really helps you get a look into his personality. I
And
did
for
thought,
lyric.
yeah, yeah, and for
Sorry.
Lyra and for
Yeah.
Sabriel.
Yep. For all of the characters, new clothes are a big thing. For Sam, for Lyriel, for Sabriel,
I mean, in video games, it's great getting new clothing, like in Legend of Zelda, because it's like,
for
oh,
Clariel.
It's true. She gets new clothes too. I'm
I mean,
wondering.
it's almost like you're abandoning your past. I mean, he wrote it in this where it's like he's setting down his past forever and moving forward.
Yeah.
Is
Mhm.
generally
Yeah.
what he said. So I do understand why getting a set of new clothing is so kind of set, and to the point of him being potentially ex Air Force. He got his uniform, and that's kind of your marking of where you are.
Now I'm gonna Google that. I'm pretty sure he did.
It's
Also,
it's one of my
Eleanor gets
favorite.
new clothes.
Oh, Eleanor gets new clothes. Yeah. One of my favorite like euphemisms for cosmetics is war paint, and it what you wear, how you present yourself can really change who you feel like you are.
Yeah.
He was actually in the Army Reserves,
Okay.
Okay.
so he
S-
was
s-
military.
Still, getting clothing for being in the army is still kind
Pretty
of
similar.
it's yeah, I would
Yeah.
say.
You're not a full-on indentured servant, but you're pretty close.
Oh, this is fun. Is Garth Nix a pseudonym for a Google search for him? It's not a pseudonym. It's his real name. Um, where were we? I wrote a summary. It's not very good, but I will read it now. So, entering spoilers for To Hold a Bridge, a young man hopes to redeem his future from his parents' hapless ways. His grandmother's inherited share of a bridge, he spends the last with his oh, this is going great. With his grandmother's inherited share of a bridge, he spends the last of his money to travel north and apply to be a cadet. He hopes for a roof over his head, clothing, 3 squares a day, and an honorable work. He wakes up one night to find that his comrades are dead and zombified. The fortress invaded by northern spirit constructions, and only himself left to defend the bridge. With a nearly fatal wielding of charter magic, he alerts the main force of the bridge's danger and causes the enemies to flee. So there you go. Um, what do you think about how the different charter magic just feels different in this book? I don't know if you agree with that.
I would agree.
I think this is what you get from not being part of one of the treasured bloodlines.
The not special mages.
Yep.
You get to
This is
see
what
how it works.
you get tired making a candle on your finger.
Yeah.
I like how when he's going through his test, the bridge mistress is like, normally people pass out before they get to 3 spells.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking back to the original trilogy. I'm like, oh, interesting.
That's one of the things I actually really, really enjoy about this story is this is a normal dude. He's just
Hmm.
normal.
He might be a mage in the future, though. Who knows?
We don't I mean, maybe,
Yeah.
but
He's a cadet. He's a little kid. Little kids can't do much magic. That's how it's supposed to be.
he's
Yeah.
20. He's not a little kid.
By bridge mistress standards, he's a little kid.
That's true. That's true. And yeah, so other thoughts about this story. There's not a lot to talk about except for the fact that he manages to hold the bridge all by himself with his little cadet powers.
it to me felt that like the creation of the spell was a lot more clear in this book than in the original trilogy. I feel like I understood the I don't know, the science behind the magic more.
The science behind the magic is a
It's
great way to.
it's the best I can think of, but it just was more clear. I don't know if that's because
I think it's because you've seen it before. Because I
it
don't
could
think it's
be.
very different than it was in Sabriel.
Yeah, I like the concept of him closing his eyes and seeing the words pop up, and he's like, this word, this word, this word. This is the spell, and it's the power of knowing the words in order to do the spell, which I thought
Well,
was cool, and I didn't notice that really before.
I will say that this. I will say, Spook, you're wrong.
Oh.
I'm
Imagine
gonna
me
have to.
being wrong.
It's not
I'm gonna
about
have.
knowing the words, because the charter marks are not words, they are marks.
Okay,
And they have
So,
use names. And this is distinguished in this book, in this novella.
gotcha.
The difference between the mark itself, which is the glyph that he sees in his mind, and the name that you use when you speak it into existence, as well as calling it out of the charter with your mental muscles or whatever.
Sure.
Like Annette Kalu Furhan, which is this, which finally names the silvery blades, which is a mark that we've seen, trio of marks that we've seen previously in the trilogy,
yeah, Sam
repeatedly,
uses it.
but it's
Yeah.
never had a name.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the words are shorthand, but knowing the
Yes,
words doesn't
Gotcha.
let you do the magic.
Okay.
they're the words that you use when you use the charter mark specifically, but they're not the mark itself.
So it's knowing the mark that is more
Yes,
important. Okay.
yes.
Yes.
And they're not. They're the word is the shorthand, but you need to know the mark even to know the word.
You need to know the mark in order to do anything with it.
Okay.
The words
Cool.
are useful shorthand that can like help a spell, but they're not the essential of it, and the spell can
Sure.
probably
Okay.
be cast without them.
Cool.
Definitely. I definitely can, and
Yeah.
you'd find that. And but
Well, depending
also
on the skill of the mage.
right. But
Yes.
also the use of words are more for when you're teaching somebody
Okay.
or to talk with another mage on it. Because otherwise you would have to like draw everything out.
Draw them out. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I like how he
The
infuses
map is not the
his
territory.
sword. Huh? What?
The map is not the territory.
Yes.
Yes. I also like how he infuses his sword with magic to kill the giant spirit creature. It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the hot call. I thought that was like the coolest.
It was a very cool usage of some charter ingenuity. Because
Mhm.
we almost never get to see charter spells actually kill something.
It's
No.
true.
Almost
true.
never. They charter mages get built up as these like scary, terrifying things, but they're generally like binding spells at best.
And they're like sticking them to a sword, and then that sword is what is used, not.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also really like the relationships that he has around them or around him. But one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that is interesting is that this story is not nearly as funny. Not that he's a comedic uses a lot, and this one isn't nearly as lighthearted. And the only person you get lightheartedness from is the male second. And that's just in the relationship he has with everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that the more serious tone, I guess. Not that I don't think Garth Nix, I just say Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks probably could be funny too. Not that I don't think Nix can't be funny because he is funny. There are so many humorous scenes in his stories, but this one is just much more serious in its tone.
Yeah, I think
And
Sam took the allotment of comically inept.
Yeah.
poor Sam.
He wasn't
Sam.
funny as in making jokes. He was funny as in we're pointing at him and laughing.
The whole thing with the bird of whatever spring. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, that's not a spoiler.
I will say on the topic of relationships in this book or in this novella, I did appreciate the inner monologue where he's like, all the people I've dealt with up to this point, this is how they would react. And so he's terrified to meet these people, going, everybody I've known has treated me this way. These people are sure to treat me this way too. And then he finds out, no,
I was
they're
not a
not.
fan when Nyx jumped into third person omniscient to be like he didn't know what happiness was. He was only like tired and working and content, and that was also a new situation for him, and he didn't know how to take it. That was unnecessary. Show us, don't tell us.
Sure.
I think
I
that's nitpicky. I mean, I see.
It was a few sentences, but like, oh, I have a nit to pick in the next story, which is much smaller and just a single word.
I wonder if that's more of a facet of it being so short, where he just had to get through this information he wanted to portray, but I don't know.
I think
I'm
that's
just
probably part of the case. But
after such a tight focus on the main character, though, I'm less inclined to allow for like this one little
Sure.
dip out into narration.
just pick that nit. Just pick it.
Yeah.
No, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. Lord knows I've done it before with other books. It just didn't bother me.
I didn't really
I,
even
I
notice it. So
I could see where you're coming from, but it wasn't a thing for me. So I
Everything
just want
else had
to.
been like put in his voice.
You're right.
Sorry.
You're right. I was just gonna say the last paragraph of this story, I tear up almost every single time I read it, and so I'm just gonna read it. And he knew he would not die, for Terrell held him back. Terrell was the company, and the company was the bridge, and he was part of it all, and always would be. Skipping ahead a little, for he had not failed the test. He had held the bridge. It just gives me chills. It makes me happy for this kid who finally found his place in the world.
it's found family. What's not to love?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving
Military
on.
love.
Oh, unless there's something else you want to say about this specific story.
I love a bridge mistress as a character type.
No nonsense.
Love it. Love it.
I also enjoyed that we get a new monster as well. In both of these, but in this one especially.
Yes.
I don't know if the creature in the case really counts enough as a new monster, just because it's so much like the creature that L'Oreal, whatever,
Yeah.
words,
The
the
hair.
one that
Yeah.
she finds, the one that she finds in the library.
Are
Similar.
they?
And it's
Okay, they're different, but they're kind of the same.
There's so, yeah.
They even have the same like architectural imagery that surrounds them, which I found funny.
Yeah, because when Lauren, the creature in the library, he says, well, there's like all these different things, but they're all basically the same. They have this whole conversation around it. So anyway.
Yeah, but also they're both found near like crescent moon shaped architectural pieces.
True. That is true. And they're also both in cases. Although
Yep.
one is a case in the floor, which I don't understand
Yeah.
why you would do that, but whatever. It was an aesthetic choice by the librarian.
Hey, the other one was in the basement, so it was in a case
There
below
you
the
go.
floor.
Probably below a library too.
Yeah, below a library. It was directly
It was below the library.
which had crescent moon doors.
And then you know who took care of both of them? Huh.
Helped by wood.
Okay, we're a little off top. We've actually just moved on to talking about the creature in the case, let's face it.
Yeah.
You said if anyone.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I also kind of liked so when they're going down into the um into the basement of D13, it totally made me think of it Get Smart. Like every single time I read it, I think about Get Smart because
Sure.
they
Never
pull
seen
the
it.
book out. What? They pull
Never
the
seen
book.
it.
Oh, it's have you seen Inspector Gadget?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm aware
that
of
is
spy tropes of hidden bookshelves with secret
yeah,
doors.
right, right. But he goes down into a basement. I'm pretty sure it's through a library door. Um, and there's all
It's
these
through a
different weird
library
things.
floor.
Right, yeah. He takes an elevator though. But anyway, that I found it very amusing that he pulls out the book and it gets and and Nick
And
is
it gets
like
stuck halfway.
he's like, was something supposed to happen? And then it's actually just a key in the book.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was kind of
And
funny.
and they're going down the stairs and Nick is like, this is all very cloak and dagger. And
Yeah.
anyway, um should we do the summary or do you have anything else you want to say about this story generally?
I thought it was cool that we got to see Nick do more stuff than Sam did in 2 books.
We got to see Nick have like multiple car chases.
Car chases, hero
Car chase,
moments.
motorcycle ride chase. It was great. He was an action
He
hero
was
this film.
badass. I loved it. It
You
was
gotta
cool.
you gotta climb up an elevator shaft and you gotta like cloak and dagger himself. Speaking of cloak and dagger, like the whole scene where he's passing off his we are into spoilers. The whole scene where he's passing he's trying to get the little old kingdom trader and he's like bumping into people and like handing off secret notes and he's
Yep.
very politically astute.
And
And
we only had and needed one moment where it's like, I need to stop being a coward. I'm going to be a hero now. Not the entire story, as
Yeah.
opposed to another character.
stop picking on Sam. Stop it.
And also, instead of like going into a crowded area when he has the opportunity to, no, he hides in a luggage rack instead.
I love that. That was amazing. And then he punches the poor guy who's just trying to get his golf clubs down.
Yeah. Sorry, man. My name is Nicholas Sayre. And then he runs away.
I kind
after
of
he
love
punches,
him.
he's like, he punches him and then he says, sorry, mistaken identity.
You can't just punch a up and run off.
And I like how often he's like, my name is Nicholas Sayre. That guy's my uncle. It runs.
Yes, my uncle.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I like how he we have not done the summary for this story.
It's okay. There's not a whole lot.
Nicholas
So
Sayre goes to an old man, turns out to be a secret agent, and he's trying to bring back a free magic creature that's been mummified and speaking to him in his dreams. The creature gets awakened with Nick's blood, flees off to the Old Kingdom. Nick saves a bunch of people, chases after it. Monster still kills a bunch of other people. They go through the perimeter. They're back in the Old Kingdom. He stuns it with his blood, forcing it to drink more and more until it passes out, and so does he. Then Lyriel wakes up. Lyriel arrives, wakes up Nick, kills the creature, and then's like, "Oh, you wanted to come back with me?"
Yeah.
There we go. Summary.
yes. Yes.
That's a Ken summary if I've ever heard one.
That was a Ken summary. But yeah, this is a fun story. It's just a fun little
Mm-hmm.
story. Yeah. I want to see, I want to see some young Netflix edition of the story. The problem is it's
Yeah.
just full of spoilers for the main trilogy. So
That's what. So for the first novella, I wanted more from a novel. For this, I wanted like a horror movie. But I was trying to think of how you would do one without spoiling an entire trilogy of books. It's so hard. Without like diverting it from without changing so much, it's not really an Old Kingdom story anymore. But I would love like
Yeah.
a horror movie of like the first half of this story. I think that'd be fun.
Nicholas needs to be made to watch more atrocities
Oh
happen
yeah.
to be this be horrifying.
I like when when he's driving away and the big dude and the little dude that work for his uncle are trying to chase down the car, and then they throw the daisies and the poppies chain
Yeah.
into the car. I was like, oh, because they kept trying to keep him out of danger, and he's just like, no, I'm running towards that danger.
He
I'm gonna be a
ran
hero.
through fire.
Literally.
That's
Through
cool.
fire.
It was cool.
It's awesome.
Yep. Climbed up an elevator shaft, a dumbwaiter shaft.
Yeah. It was like, it's actually worse than the shaft because it was acting like a chimney, which that would totally be the case.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I also like how his uncle drops him off at the house. And it's just like, I'm not staying here. Are you kidding? I hate these things. I'm going to be down the road. And this is what I mean by the other book being much more serious. Like, this has a lot of moments that are very, very funny.
But it takes itself seriously, which I think adds to it being funny.
Yeah.
And Nick got across the wall.
He did.
He just needed a free magic construct to clear the way for him. Sorry, free magic creature. This was not a construct. The construct was later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the only other question that I have for you guys is the question that our missing co-host asked, which is, which book would you suggest people read after Abhorsen? Or story?
Do I have to pick one?
Well, I mean, I don't think Stormrunner is going to beat you up if you don't.
I think neither is necessary.
Necessary, yeah. But, I mean, I read both of them in a sitting. Like, I just kind of laid down in bed and read them both back to back.
Sure.
Like 2 hours. I'd say if you have any kind of want to continue reading Old Kingdom, just read them both. I think they're both fun. I think they're short enough that they don't overstay their welcome, and you kind of want to know more about what's going on. So,
I've heard that To Hold a Bridge is recommended before you read Golden Hand, and I completely disagree. I think it is irrelevant.
I don't even understand that. Look, I don't what? Like I said, I think that if you just want to find out if you like this world, it's a great you could read it and never ever read another one of the books in the series at all. Ever.
Yep.
Honestly, just read To Hold the Bridge. I think it doesn't rely on anything. You just read that and you're like, okay, I want to read this series now.
Right.
Yeah. And if you want more Nicholas Sayre, read Nicholas Sayre and the Creature in the Case. If you want to read him doing different things than being
not
constantly
being sick.
Yeah.
Dying from free magic poisoning.
If you want him not being a damsel in distress, Creature in the Case.
I mean, he still ends up one by the time that Lyriel arrives, which is his want, but
he's still cool. He gets to be cool.
Yeah, he does.
He saves a lot of lives. He does. He
does. He watches a lot more get massacred.
I really enjoyed Lyriel's line where it's like, okay, enough. I have to go deal with another thing right now, so shut up and let me go deal with that. And it's like, oh no, that was the thing. You're good. I really enjoyed that for some reason.
I just reading the Creature in the Case simply because it gives you closure. Because you know that Nicholas Sayre is resurrected at the end of Abhorsen. And
you know that Lyriel knows that the dog is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just gives you closure to his arc. And then you could never read another book in the series. Although I do really enjoy Golden Hand and I enjoy the Eleanor one.
Is Golden Hand about Lyriel?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I never connected those two at the end of a portion, but now I'm making that connection after Creature in the Case because Lyriel becomes a Skywalker and she gets her fake hand and it's cool.
Correct.
And you get more library, not a ton more library, but you do get more library. And you
Little
get more
bit.
of Horse and House. So
A little bit.
not much. It's fine.
Go ahead.
Clariel's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
How many more books are in this series? Golden
3.
Hand, Clariel, and then
Terciel and
Eleanor. Terciel and Eleanor is about Lyriel's parents?
Yes. No,
Or
about
Lyriel
Sabriel's
and
Sabriel's.
Sabriel's
parents, yeah.
Lyriel's
Dad and
half
stepmother.
Okay. And Clariel is about a new character?
Clariel takes
Clariel is a prequel about an old character.
Yeah, but you've seen her. You've seen her. But it's fine. It's just it's not as good.
I'm wondering
It's a character
if I'll
making increasingly bad choices.
And crazily enough, being encouraged in those bad choices by Mogget.
Go
That's
figure.
not surprising. Well, so I wonder if I like
Mogget is the kind of companion who's like, jump off that bridge. Maybe you'll get a wish.
I'll give you a wish.
Oh, never mind. That's Golden Hand.
I'll give you a wish, and my wish is that you see more fishes for me to eat.
Yeah. I do wonder if I'll like them more than the original trilogy.
No.
It's fun because it. I agree with Kip. We probably won't. But it's fun because you get to see different aspects of the world.
Sure. Are they as breakneck as everything else?
They're a lot sparser than everything else. Or at least the two that I've read, Clariel and Golden Hand are. I haven't read Terciel and Eleanor.
You would like it. You get more Waverly College. A lot more.
Cool.
Okay.
You want
keep
more
saying
boarding
that.
school? You want more boarding school, I'm telling you. And that one, I think, of the other books, that one's the best of the other 3 books. I liked it the best.
Golden Hand, in my opinion, gets a little too YA to fit tonally in with the rest of the series.
And it kind of turns into a romance novel.
Yeah, it kind of does. And the romance parts aren't good.
Not really.
I don't think they were ever good.
And plus you can see it coming from a mile away. Like, it's so telegraphed. It's unreal.
Well, we see it. I'm assuming that we're saying in Creature in the Case.
Did we see romance there? I don't think we did.
I'm saying the telegraph. And I don't know what romance would be in Golden Hand, but that's what I'm assuming. Is it's just a continuation of that.
It's very weird. It's got weird things going on it. And there is one interesting aspect I like about Golden Hand that explains something that happens in Clariel. So I liked that part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's Clariel the weakest, and then Golden Hand, and then Eleanor's book. So, and Eleanor's book is the best.
I would put Golden Hand below Clariel, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
I really like the part with the girl who is running away. Like, I like her part in this more than Nick.
I found that like the last third of Golden Hand really dragged.
I agree with that. I am not disagreeing. Any final thoughts?
I'm happy to be done with this series now.
So I'm not going to talk you into reading anymore, am I?
Not anytime soon. No, my plate is full. But it has been fun. And Creature in the Case. You know how Dorrance is always like crazy and thinking, oh, she needs to go home. She is a goddess. She is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
At one point, he calls her it.
Are you sure? I think it's Nick that calls
Yes.
her it.
Nope. Nick gets backhanded for calling her it once. And then later on, like at the train station in Bane,
Oh, yeah.
he says, "It just wants to go home."
I'm wondering if that was a find replace issue or something like that.
No capital she there. No.
Yeah.
I like that he's
Typo.
riding the monster around. Oh, we just kidnapped that whole diver. Like, no. It's
Then
just
it
such a
jumps
funny
30
image.
feet.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just such a funny image. I love it. Oh,
It
action
reminded me a
done.
lot of Edward and Bella
Oh,
from
yes.
Twilight.
That took me a while because you know what? I almost walked out on
Wasn't
Twilight.
expecting Kip to reference Twilight. No.
Yeah. But that's a good reference. I almost walked out on that movie. It was so terrible. Oh my
It's pretty
gosh.
bad, but in my view, it's so bad it's good.
Okay.
But yes, Dorrance was being carefully watched.
I like how
Carefully watched.
half his staff is actually spying on him.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, how much murder do they let go by as like, totally permissible?
a lot.
Yeah,
They're just doing their job. That's it. They're just doing their job.
and Celestier sucks. The Crossing Point Scouts are basically a different nation.
They're like the
Yeah.
old I like the professor's reaction. I didn't know it was real. I didn't really think it was real. I was humoring him. And he passes out or whatever, and he can't get up the elevator shaft. And Nick was just like, well, it's just too bad for him, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's too late.
Well, legally, we can do anything we want with Malthus. It's a provisional visa.
Right? Wow. Oh, and the poor guy
Yeah.
just ends up dead in a ditch. Not that he seemed like a particularly good person, but that doesn't mean you just want him murdered by a government.
I mean, he seemed like a merchant. He didn't seem too terrible.
He seemed a little on the shady side.
I mean, definitely on the shadier side, but apparently legalized by both governments.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, like, Touchstone agreed to it.
Yeah.
But it could have also been just one of those bureaucratic things like, oh, his dad did it, his grandpa did it, and da-da-da, and they've all done it, so I guess whatever. I don't know. We don't know how strict Old Kingdom is. We know it's much more strict on the other side of the wall.
Born uncorrupted charter mark, and that's good enough.
Pretty much. Okay. So I personally want to recommend both Across the Wall and To Hold the Bridge, the short story collections.
Agreed.
Hmm?
Oh, are you talking about the entire
The book,
collection?
yeah, the
Gotcha.
entire collection, and it gives you a really broad view of Nick's writing. It has very, very different stories as well as short stories that take place in his other world. He does a fairy tale retelling, you know, which is my favorite thing. Um, and it's just there's a lot more to him than the Old Kingdom. And he also has a couple pretty adult stories in him too. That are definitely adult stories. So not erotica or even that smutty, but definitely a little bit. It just gives a different side, a warmer side. Anything else, guys?
I wish that we'd gotten to see Lyriel not in shy girl mode at the end of this book, but it is a nice reminder that still exists.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, she girl bosses it up in Golden Hand.
Does
With her
she? Does
with her
she? I
hand?
feel like there's a regression.
Anyway, disagree since we're not gonna.
Okay,
I have no desire to podcast on Gold Hand at all,
that's
so
fine.
you don't have to worry about me pushing that on you. Thank you so much for joining us. Please consider supporting the Legendarium on Patreon. Our music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thanks to Craig for loaning us a little corner of your media empire. and Horizon Brave for starting it all. For Kyptan and Spook, I'm Little Red Book. Night, y'all.
Good night.
Night.